It started with an email. Is this still available? If so, I'd love to have it. In a few minutes, the seller and I had come to an agreement, and he was in his vehicle en route to deliver me a used Evans Real Feel drum practice pad and a matched pair of Vic Firth sticks. Before I had the items in my hands, I never seriously considered learning to play drums. Something about the Craigslist ad struck me just right, though. Call it timing, cosmic intervention, or something else. And when a wild hair lands across my backside just right, I can be rather impulsive. It took fewer than 90 minutes from inquiry to delivery. After that, though, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. If you've ever learned a musical instrument for the first time, you know there's a lot you don't know, and even more you don't even realize you don't know. I've been playing music and reading sheet music since I was about 11 years old. My mother's trumpet was the first attempt, but I found there weren't enough keys to keep me interested. Then came alto sax, which I played for years, up until my senior year of high school. But I had chosen the alto saxophone mostly because two of my longest running besties played alongside me. I dabbled in piano, messed around on a guitar for years, and while I was never technically proficient with it, even managed to write some tablature by ear. Each time I changed musical course, I learned something about music and about myself. Starting over from scratch means starting at the beginning, and when I received the drum pad and sticks, to the beginning I went. Except I didn't know where the beginning actually was. YouTube is full of helpful people offering any tutorial you could ever want, yet the platform was overwhelming because there were too many choices. When I could start anywhere I wanted, choosing a starting place became the work. So I ditched it and instead downloaded a free app of the 40 rudiments and MIDI files. For months, I tried working in a 30-minute daily practice habit, something I was only moderately successful at. My daughter, who was 3 at the time, was a masterful interrupter who always found something she just needed to tell me the second I popped in my earbuds. The constant pausing meant I ended up leaving drum practice till bath time when I could finally have 15 to 20 minutes to focus on the rudiments. The process worked for a while. The rudiments were difficult at first, and once I got the hands right, exactitude of timing became my goal. Something I'm still working on, really, because drummers don't get to have poor timing. While the rest of the band can kind of wing it, the drummer must always be locked in. Over and over again, I practiced those rudiments, hundreds of times, in fits and starts over the next year or so. Sometimes a month or more would go by without a single practice session, but I still managed an average of 4 practices per week during that period. But by 2023, I was getting a little bored with the rudiments. Sure, I needed to refine those skills, but I also needed variety. On the recommendation of a LinkedIn friend, Matt Thomas, I picked up a copy of Stick Control and began the Stick Control Challenge with Heather Thomas, who crushes the challenge in one take, something I still cannot do even years later as I share this. Between the rudiments and the Stick Control Challenge, I felt timing creep back into my hands, started to feel the rightness of strikes at specific times. I was learning and doing a lot to gain a new to me skill, but I still wanted more. After all, drums involve more than just the hands. A few years ago, I kind of forced my partner to invest in an electric drum kit after a snafu with one of his bands. He needed a way to easily record drums, and Alesis e-kits were on sale. And in January this year, my partner gifted me a private space in our basement/music room just for me and my small collection of instruments, just 2 guitars and an amp, and an easy chair. And he moved into my space the e-kit. Moving from just hands to hands and feet, though, was a challenge. So I turned to YouTube once more. Yet I still didn't know what I needed to know to do what I wanted to do. Most search engines, when researching how to learn to play a drum kit, will return lots of beginner-friendly resources that prompt the first-timer to learn a song, any song really, because playing songs makes practice fun, so the beginner wants to continue practicing, which makes sense, right? Probably. But when you're not a beginner to music, going back to simple rhythms like tap, tap, pow just doesn't cut it. Sorry, Queen, but as it turns out, we won't be rockin'. When I first started to learn the drum kit, I chose 5 songs curated from lots of beginner lists to focus on. Free Fallin' by Tom Petty, Rollin' in the Deep by Adele, Creep by Radiohead, Eye of the Tiger by Survivor, and Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. The tracks were workable and practicable for a while, and then I got bored. The simple rhythms were too simple, the patterns too repetitive. While I had been focused on exactitude of timing, I found myself so bored by the songs I had chosen that I stopped caring about exactness. And then I stopped practicing altogether. I needed a change and the inspiration necessary to usher in that change. So I turned to Pandora. If you have a decades-old Pandora account like mine and you've never listened to your own thumbprint station, that station custom built for all the tracks you've thumbed up over the years, you're probably missing out on some serious old gems, big hits of nostalgia, and inspiration you didn't even know you're missing from your life. My thumbprint station gave me a gift when This Could Be Anywhere in the World by Alexisonfire blasted forth from the speakers. Inspiration struck. Then I watched drummer Zoe Macmillan cover the song while my daughter looked on in awe. She looks like she's having so much fun, Mom. And when my partner asked what it was I actually wanted to do with the drums, I told him, I want to be able to play any fucking thing I want. I want to listen and know what I'm hearing. I want to hear it and execute it. But listening, hearing the nuance in percussion, and executing with real enthusiasm meant I needed to give myself permission to skip the beginner-friendly mentality and get to the good stuff. The speed, the syncopation, and the joy that comes with really nailing something after months of frustration and hundreds of attempts. I wanted to laugh while smashing those skins, sing along if I wanted to. I didn't have to learn a handful of beginner-friendly tracks that fucking bored me to tears to make that happen. I could write my own learn to play rules. So I began really listening to the songs I was hearing, picking out tracks I loved with interesting drum parts, songs that made me want to play. For all my years of music training and all the instruments I'd chosen before now, melody ruled. Yes, there are rhythm guitars, but that's kind of beside the point because even rhythm guitars are heavily invested in melody. Anywho, one of the quirks of learning drums is listening for rhythm rather than melody. One evening while standing in the kitchen, I was listening to Alexisonfire for the umpteenth time and just kept missing the air drum strike in one key part, a part that will stick out like a swollen lymph node if I miss the same strike while playing along with the track. I turned to my partner in the moment and told him how excited I was to learn the track, but man, oh man, was it difficult. I'll never forget the knowing chuckle that came out of him as he looked at me squarely and said, "Yeah, Ratbeard is a really fucking good drummer." Now, I didn't know who Jordan Hastings was really before I decided to learn such a complex, for me, track, but knowing he's a biggin, even for other musicians, made me feel incrementally better about how difficult the song is to learn. Alexisonfire led me to a quest on which I collected learning tracks like some kids collect rocks or sticks until I had what I call the first 5. The first 5 tracks I'm learning on drums are Finch's What It Is to Burn, Amberlin's Feel Good Drag, Fall Out Boy's Sugar We're Going Down, Alexisonfire's This Could Be Anywhere in the World, and the used Buried Myself Alive. And I bet you can guess my relative age, even without my face, just from that selection of songs I shared with you. Though I know these 5 songs like the backs of my own hands, I'm rediscovering them as rhythm. Because being able to sing along to a song from front to back is vastly different than being able to drum along to it from front to back. After I had finally found a list of learning tracks that made me nearly salivate for the excitement and expectation, the task then became how to learn these songs. Remember, I'm still very new with the drum kit, and I didn't even know what to look for to describe what I was missing. Often, I don't even know what is missing. But in listening to these 5 songs over and over again, I began to hit stumbling blocks, which gave me clues about my needs. So as I stumbled, I started backfilling my own learning. Picked up videos on general kit dexterity, a few simple must know drum fills, exercises to separate my right hand from my right foot. And in the most recent hand foot independence exercises, I've come full circle and I'm back at rudiments, except this time I'm learning to do them in linear patterns with my hand and my foot instead of 2 hands. So, how is everything going so far? Well, I'm still practicing at least semi regularly, so I haven't thrown in the towel yet. Honestly, I don't think I can throw in the towel on this learning venture, not after I made a tongue in cheek comment about learning drums a few years ago and received some unexpectedly exciting support for the idea. Plus, it's really fun. Yes, the smashing, of course, that's easy. But the true fun is striking the skins with perfect timing such that the metronome sound disappears and becomes part of the percussive cosmic universe. If you know, you know. So I keep going. 3 or 4 times a week, I make my way to my basement practice space, sit atop my throne, pop in my earbuds, select the learning task of the day, and crash on in. I still have no fucking clue what I'm doing, really, but I'm starting to get it, starting to understand, and I'm already collecting the next 5. If you're interested in listening to the first 5 songs I'm learning on drums, I've included them in a playlist for you on my channel. So take a look at the playlist, find the first 5 songs I'm learning on drums, pop in your earbuds, and go bliss out for a solid 20 to 25 minutes. I've also included in the description of this episode the learning tracks that I've used from YouTube from other people who have helped me immensely, though they will probably never know how helpful they actually have been and continue to be while I'm learning how to do all of this crazy thing. If you are learning a new to you skill, whether it's drums or guitar or alto saxophone or crocheting or quilting or painting or something else, share with me below what you're learning and where it comes from and how you're managing to backfill your self-training while you're sort of plodding through and making stuff work, building a custom learning path all to yourself. Because that's really the quiet joy of learning something new, is choosing how and when and what you get to learn and why you're doing it, and where you get to share it. So consider sharing with me so I can help you celebrate your learning progress alongside mine.